from the officers that were there. So we're about 100 yards away, and you could really just feel the emotion of that moment, a somber feel. But I remind everybody that the two big questions we have are, first off, who is the officer, obviously, and then the other question we have is what's the scope of the injuries of this officer. We should have answers, perhaps in the show, 10-15 minutes from now, because we're going to be having a press conference. We're going to hear from the chief of police, the person that corresponds with the press, as well as the county executive. So shortly we should have more information. Medstar is equipped for medical trauma situations. Of course, this is where a lot of patients were brought after 9/11, the Navy Yard shootings, the Alexandria shooting at the baseball fields. We were out here as well, so they're equipped for this. The feel from everybody involved here is that they're just hoping that this officer is going to be all right. Again, though, the big questions: who is this officer and what are the injuries? I'll send it back to you.
From officials there that we heard from a short time ago, that the injuries were serious and life-threatening. That's what we were told last. Now, we know that this happened, as Evan described, at 849 at a parking garage located at Ellsworth Drive and Fenton Street. That's where we find Michael Quander. Michael, you've been talking with a number of officials today, both at the police department as well as with the county. What are they telling you?
Yeah, look, I got to tell you, we're talking to officials, but it's also been the people who have been just walking up as well. We talked to one woman who walked up when we told her what happened. She says, I live right down the street. That person likely has a family that is waiting for them to come home. She started crying. Her hand was shaking. That shows you just how emotional this was. If you take a look right here behind me, right, I'm at one of the command centers. This is where police are calling the shots in this investigation, where they're deploying their resources, where they are making the calls to figure out exactly what all went down here. Now, here's what we know. Officer encountered some people inside of that parking garage, and they say that they were acting disorderly. That officer called for backup. When more officers showed up, they realized that the officer had been shot. That officer was taken to the hospital, and we know from the fire department that officer is in serious and potentially life-threatening condition. And that is the reality of what the police and this police department is going through right now. They are working to figure out exactly what happened, but also dealing with a lot of the emotions.
Around 8:49 this morning, one of our officers in our 3rd district called out with disorderly subjects at the top of the Ellsworth Fenton garage. Responding officers to back them up found the officer suffering from a gunshot wound. The officer was transported to a local hospital. His condition right now is unknown. It's a dynamic situation. We're trying to avoid the area if we can, have everybody stay out of the area while we're continuing to look to piece this together and find suspects if possible.
Is there a lookout for these suspects?
Not at this time. We're working that right now.
Is there more than one suspect?
Unknown.
How about the traffic around here? Has that been stopped?
Traffic has been cut in certain areas to allow for the movement of our resources, our different police vehicles, emergency equipment, but that's going to open up as the situation unfolds.
Do you know if the officer got off any shots of his own?
Unknown right now.
Since you received a disorderly subject, so the officer was responding to inside of a garage?
The officer's at the top of the garage and called out with disorderly subjects, meaning something that he discovered.
Yeah, so that was us as we were getting more information about this situation. We also asked about body cameras. If that officer had a body camera rolling at the time, that would play a key role in figuring out exactly what happened if, in fact, that officer had a body camera and had that body camera rolling during the time of the incident. Now, the scary part for a lot of people out here right now, Lyra, I got to tell you, is the fact that police don't know exactly how many people they're looking for, what they look like, and if they are still armed and potentially dangerous. And that's why they are warning people to stay away from the area if they can, as they continue to wrap up this investigation.
We know if we get more information from that body camera video that potentially it could shed some light in terms of whether or not there was one or even multiple suspects in this investigation. But again, this continues to unfold bit by bit, hour by hour. We do know that there still is a robust investigation happening in downtown Silver Spring, with a number of road closures that have been in place since this incident was first reported shortly before 9 o'clock this morning. Let's bring in Bruce LeShan to the conversation right now. You have more on the response and the reaction, and people have been rather emotional after hearing about this officer shot and right now fighting for his or her life.
Yeah, that's right, Larry. It's really a sad and depressing day for a lot of Montgomery County police officers. And just within the last few moments, there was a large group of police officers standing here next to the garage. I'm right next to the garage. They just took off. People are standing by awaiting the official announcement on the status of this police officer. But it's pretty clear at this point that there is no active search going on in this area in Silver Spring, no active search for the suspect or suspects in this case. And one of the things that a lot of police officers are telling me is that the response here was extremely fast. The officer up on the top floor of the garage here put out a call for help, for backup, disorderly persons. The response quick. The officers apparently barged right through the gates of the parking garage here, drove right through them, according to witnesses, to try and get to the officer. But when they got to him, he was completely by himself, completely alone. And despite a massive and intense search around this area, officers were unable to find any of these suspects. So that is an interesting fact that they will be looking at as we go along. A lot of people were trapped in this parking garage, just bystanders. We got a chance to talk to David Brown about what he saw.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely terrible. And, I mean, I hope he comes through. I saw him take him out on the stretcher and everything. I assume it was him. Yeah, I mean, just pray for him and hope that he comes through okay.
Did you get any sense of what did it look like with him on the stretcher? Can you describe it at all?
It was definitely urgent. I mean, there were 15 people around him coming down on the stretcher, so it wasn't I mean, they weren't being casual or calm about it. They were stressed.
Did you notice if they were doing CPR on him?
I didn't see that. No.
But you saw him on the stretcher leaving?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see his face or anything like that, but I saw, I mean, there was a person definitely on the stretcher and getting loaded up into the ambulance.
All right, back now live. So the search for the suspects not going on around here. The investigation continues. There are still police officers all around the parking garage. You can see the police tape. They still have Ellsworth closed down, but Fenton up here, the main street, and I'm in the shade here, of course, the main street here that goes back up into the downtown Silver Spring Mall, that is reopened and people are getting by, but there's plenty of traffic. That's the situation live in Silver Spring right now. Bruce Leshan, WUSA 9.
All right.
Larry?
Bruce, thank you so much. We appreciate the update. But again, when we talk about what police and law enforcement deal with every day, we know that situations like this are a risk, that they put their lives on the line to protect the communities in which they live. John Henry joining us right now with that part of the story. John?
Hey Larry, yeah, there was a lot of confusion when this all happened earlier today. Hundreds of people were here in the Civic Plaza across from the movie theater around Ellsworth and Fenton. As you know, here in downtown Silver Spring, there are a lot of businesses that need to be accounted for in a situation like this, restaurants as well. I talked to a couple of restaurant, not owners, but employees earlier today about what it was like. They didn't want to go on camera, but they were telling me a little bit earlier that they were locked inside of their businesses as police basically got to the scene here as quickly as they could to make sure that the scene was secure. Now, a little bit earlier, Tom Hucker, he's a council member here in Montgomery County, spoke to what police officers have to deal with and how hard a situation like this can be with the police department and the community.
Everybody's thinking of the officer and their families. He's very much in our thoughts and prayers right now, and it's just certainly a reminder of the sacrifices that our police put in every single day, keeping our community safe. This is one of the safest communities in the country, and everybody should be, I think, thinking of the officer and his family, and being grateful to our police at such a difficult time.
And once again, you can see from that video we showed you earlier, there were a lot of people down here, but once again, everyone was safe. And as Bruce was saying a little bit earlier, the perimeter around the garage has been drawn back considerably in comparison to what it was about 2 hours ago. Basically, there's yellow crime scene tape around Ellsworth Garage right now, but you can basically walk around and drive many of the streets near this area. And once again, you couldn't do that 2 hours ago. Larry?
Yeah, certainly a reflection of how the investigation at this point is changing. John Henry, thank you so much. I do want to let you know that we've heard from the Fraternal Order of Police sending their well wishes to this officer that is right now fighting for his or her life. There are multiple schools that are sheltering in place. Montgomery County telling us that there are 3 schools that are sheltering in place nearby where this investigation is taking place. That school being Silver Spring International Middle School, East Silver Spring Elementary School, and Sligo Creek Elementary School as well. We're on standby waiting for a news conference to take place at Medstar. We're going to bring that to you once it gets underway. In the meantime, let's check in with Mary Marshall with a look at the forecast.
Hey there, Larry. Temperatures